Okay, so you know how sometimes you're like really in the mood to like really work on your English
Oh, yeah.
to get it sounding like super smooth and natural.
Yes.
But actually finding someone to practice with, it feels kind of impossible sometimes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah, this is a good one.
With this guide, How to Practice English Fluency Without a Speaking Partner.
I like it.
It's like it looked into my brain and was like, here's all the reasons why you're making excuses.
Right.
And it kind of tackles them head on.
It does.
You know, like, how am I supposed to get feedback when it's just me talking to myself?
Exactly.
Am I supposed to just like trust myself?
Right.
And also, I think for me personally, how do I stay motivated when there's no one else to hold me accountable?
Yeah, that's a big one. Accountability is huge.
Yeah. So I think what's cool about this is it's not saying if you can't find a partner, this is like the second best option.
Right.
It's saying, no, this is like a really great option regardless.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people who speak multiple languages will say that they use these techniques all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Like independent practice. It's not plan B. It's like the secret weapon.
Yes.
It's huge. Tons of successful polyglots will tell you. Independent practice, that's where it's at.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about something that I'm like 99% sure we've all done.
Okay.
Which is talking to ourselves.
Of course.
Okay. But before you think this is going to get too weird,
Right.
it actually makes a ridiculously good case for WH why this works.
Yeah.
So tell me, why should we be talking to ourselves in English?
Think of it this way. When you talk to yourself in English, you're basically forcing your brain to switch from just understanding to actively speaking, right? You're recalling vocabulary, putting sentences together on the fly. And the more you practice that inner monologue, the smoother and more confident you'll become out loud.
So instead of just like going through the motions of making my morning coffee,
Right.
I should actually be narrating the whole thing.
Exactly.
Okay, so now I'm going to grind the beans and then, oh my gosh.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
I'm already feeling awkward.
It's a little strange at first, I get it, but you're creating this safe space to experiment, to make mistakes, find your flow.
So it's literally like practice, but without the fear of judgment.
Precisely. You're your own best and most forgiving audience.
Yeah.
And the best part, it's portable practice.
Yeah.
You can literally do it anywhere, anytime. Okay, next up, we're diving into something that feels straight out of a spy movie. It's called shadowing.
Ooh, I like it.
But instead of like stealing secrets, you're stealing the skills of fluent speakers.
Yes, it's like language espionage. You're immersing yourself in the rhythm, the intonation, the music of English.
Okay, so I'm picturing this. I've got my headphones on and I'm listening to one of my favorite podcast hosts.
Okay.
And they just have that effortlessly cool, clear way of speaking.
Yes.
So as they're talking, I'm like right there with them, almost like their shadow trying to match their
Yes.
every word,
Yes.
their pace, their energy, everything.
You've got it. And the more you do it, the quicker you can shift from that robotic to a more natural, fluid way of speaking.
So it's like internalizing the music right.
Right.
Instead of just words, I'm grooving.
It's like learning a song. You pick up the melody, the beat, the feeling, and suddenly you're not just stringing words together, you're grooving with the language.
Okay, so now for something that might hit a little too close to home for some of us.
Okay.
Which is like those real life situations where you need to speak English.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
But that fear of messing up is very, very real.
It is. It is.
And that's where role playing comes in.
Okay.
Which honestly, when you reframe it, can be kind of fun.
It can be. It really can. I'm all about making practice enjoyable.
Right.
Right, because role-playing, it's brilliant for that. Because it allows you to take those scenarios that make you nervous
Yes.
and conquer them.
Yes. In a safe space.
Exactly, on your own terms.
Oh my gosh. I'm already thinking about all the times I traveled. I'm like, if only I could order food confidently,
Right.
like a local. But instead of letting that fear hold me back, I literally could create a one-person restaurant in my living room.
Precisely. Picture this. You're standing there, you're asking for a menu.
Yes.
You're inquiring about the dishes. Maybe you're even attempting some witty banter with the imaginary waiter.
Yes.
But you're in control. You set the pace, you build that confidence, and there's no pressure.
This is making me realize how often we psych ourselves out. And it doesn't even have to be fancy restaurant scenarios, right?
Right.
It could be like, how do I ask for directions? How do I make small talk at a party? Or, honestly, how do I confidently order my coffee in English?
You got it. The key is to rehearse those interactions, make them feel like second nature. That way, when you encounter them for real, there's no fumbling for words. You're cool, calm, collected, and speaking English like a pro.
I love it. Okay, so we've talked about talking to ourselves, shadowing, role-playing,
That's a good start.
but this guide is packed with even more actionable techniques. So stay tuned, because we're about to uncover more of them after the break.
Duh.
Okay, so we're talking about all these ways to practice English, even when you don't have a partner.
Right, like who knew you could have so much fun talking to yourself?
Seriously. But you know what else I thought was interesting? The guide talks about using all the English that's already around us.
Yes, especially in this digital age.
Right. And I'm not just talking about like scrolling through social media. I'm
Yeah.
talking about using our favorite shows, podcasts, even those YouTube rabbit holes we go down
Yes, all of it.
to actually level up our English.
Exactly, because we're already spending so much time consuming this stuff.
Right.
Why not make it work for us?
Okay, so instead of just mindlessly watching with subtitles, I should try to really listen,
Yes, engage with it.
catch those key phrases, the idioms, all those things that make native speakers sound so natural.
You got it. And don't be afraid to hit that rewind button.
Oh, good point.
Hear a word or phrase that trips you up. Replay it. Try to say it yourself. It's like a musician practicing scales.
Oh, I like that.
The more you work those language muscles, the stronger they become.
Okay, that makes it feel way less intimidating.
Eh.
And the best part is you can totally customize it based on what you actually enjoy watching.
Exactly.
So for me, I love a good action movie. Maybe that's how I practice understanding those fast conversations.
Yes.
And maybe pick up some colorful vocabulary along the way.
Right. Or maybe you're more into dialogue-heavy dramas. Those are gold mines for learning how people actually talk.
Ooh, that's a good point.
The natural flow of conversation. And never underestimate comedies.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic for cultural references, slang, just the way language is used in a playful way.
It's like tricking my brain into thinking I'm just chilling watching TV.
Right.
But really, I'm secretly becoming fluent.
Okay, now this next technique I have a love-hate relationship with.
Okay.
Practicing in front of the mirror.
Yes, the classic. I get it. It can feel a little awkward.
It really can.
But there's a reason it stood the test of time.
So tell me, why is it so effective?
Confidence and self-awareness, two crucial ingredients for fluent speaking. And the mirror. It helps you build both. Okay, so it's like I'm having a conversation with myself,
Right.
which, let's be real, we've all done at some point.
Of course. We've all been there.
But now I can actually see how I'm coming across.
Right. Exactly. Am I making eye contact? Do I look like I know what I'm talking about?
And since we all know how important those little micro expressions are in English,
Oh, they're huge.
it's like I can actually practice them.
Precisely. It's like fine-tuning a performance. Play with different intonations, test out new vocabulary, really get a feel for how it all comes together. Plus, you get used to the sound of your own voice speaking English, which does wonders for confidence.
That's such a good point, because sometimes I feel like I hear other people and I'm like, oh, that sounds so good.
Right.
But then it's like my own voice in a silly voice.
Right.
It sounds weird to me.
We're often our own harshest critics. But the more you hear yourself speaking confidently, the more natural it'll feel.
That makes so much sense, actually. And you know, that actually brings me to something that I thought was really important,
Okay.
that this guide emphasizes, which is that there is no one right way to learn a language.
Absolutely. The beauty of independent practices is the freedom to experiment, to find what works for you, not what a textbook tells you to do.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in doing things the right way
Right?
that we forget to actually have fun with it.
Exactly. It should be an adventure, not a chore.
Yes. And it's like this guide is this giant toolbox full of cool language learning gadgets. And it's like, go ahead, play around, make some noise, see what you discover.
I love that because it really is about that sense of discovery, of finding what clicks for you. Maybe tech tools are your jam, maybe it's shadowing. The key is to stay curious, keep exploring, and don't be afraid to try new things.
It's about finding those aha moments where something just clicks and suddenly
Yeah.
learning English just feels fun.
Exactly, because when it's fun, you're engaged, you're motivated, and that's when the real progress happens.
Okay, so speaking of aha moments, I'm ready to dive into some more specific tips and tricks.
Let's do it. Let's get practical.
Let's start with those self-conversations.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get over the awkwardness.
Okay, well, one of the best ways to get over it might sound counterintuitive.
Okay.
is to just embrace it.
Embrace the awkward. Lean into the cringe. Okay, you're going to have to explain this one.
Don't overthink it. Just start talking.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
And a great way to start is by narrating your everyday activities. Remember those morning coffee rituals we talked about?
Yes.
Imagine you're a charismatic chef hosting a cooking show,
Okay.
describing every step in detail, from grinding the beans to savoring that first sip.
Welcome back to Mastering English, one sip at a time. I like it. I'm already feeling more motivated.
You see, it's all about making it fun. And don't be afraid to get creative. Give a tour of your home, have a pretend phone conversation, debate current events with yourself.
love it.
All in English, of course.
It's like giving myself permission to play,
Exact.
to experiment without that fear of judgment.
Yes,
And I do feel like the more I do that, the more it'll just flow naturally,
absolutely. And here's another key tip to make those conversations count. Push yourself to use a variety of vocabulary and grammar,
Oh, that's a good one.
because it's easy to get stuck in a rut. Simple sentences, basic words, but challenge yourself to level up,
So instead of just saying, the weather is nice today,
right?
I could say something like, wow, the sun is blazing today. I might need to break out my sunglasses.
Exactly. The more you experiment with different words, expressions, the richer your speaking will become. It's like adding spices to your cooking. It just makes it more flavorful.
Okay, that's such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Speaking of flavor, I do have a question about the self-conversations.
Okay, shoot.
The guide mentioned something about recording yourself.
Yes.
Is that really necessary? Because I have to say, I'm not the biggest fan of hearing my own voice.
I hear you. It can feel a little strange at first, but trust me, it's one of the most valuable things you can do. Because when you listen back,
Yeah.
you're not just hearing your voice, you're hearing your English from an objective perspective.
Okay.
You'll pinpoint those areas you might be stumbling, pronunciation, grammar, the overall flow.
So it's like having a language coach in my pocket, but it's just me.
Exactly, you've got it. And you can focus on specific things.
Like that pesky thee sound.
Yes, exactly. You can use these recordings to really hone in and track your progress. And the best part, you can cringe in private. Nobody has to hear those early recordings but you.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better about it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about embracing the awkwardness, pushing our vocabulary, and recording ourselves. Any other ninja level tips for self-conversations?
One more comes to mind. Don't just talk about anything. Have a purpose for each session.
Ooh, that's good.
Maybe you're practicing for a job interview, a presentation, or even just a casual chat with a friend.
So instead of just rambling about my day, I could actually pretend I'm having that conversation in English.
Exactly. That way you're not just practicing in a vacuum, you're actually preparing for real life scenarios.
That is brilliant. Okay. I am sold. I'm adding that to my list. And what about those speech recognition tools? I've dabbled with Google Translate a bit. Any secrets for using it effectively?
You're on the right track. Google Translate, especially the conversation mode, can be super handy. But here's the thing, it's easy to get caught up in just seeing if the app understood you,
Oh, yeah.
instead of really listening to how you said it.
Yes. It's like I want that instant gratification of seeing the words pop up on the screen.
Right, exactly.
But then I'm not really paying attention.
Exactly. So instead of rushing, really tune into your pronunciation, your intonation.
Okay.
Pay attention to how it highlights specific words or syllables. It's giving you clues about where your pronunciation might be off.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought of it that way.
I mean, don't just rely on the visual feedback. Actually listen to yourself.
Oh, right.
Does it sound natural? If not, try again. Experiment with different intonations. Listen for those subtle differences.
It's like having a digital mirror for my pronunciation. Are there other apps specifically for this?
Absolutely. Speechling is a great one. It gives you audio samples of native speakers. You can record yourself repeating them.
Oh, wow.
And it gives you feedback on your accuracy and fluency.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like having that pronunciation coach right in my pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm feeling good about these tech tools, but I also don't want to forget about shadowing.
Of course not. It's a good one.
I'm all for stealing fluency secrets.
Yes.
But are there any, common pitfalls to avoid?
One of the biggest mistakes I see is choosing material that's too advanced too soon.
Oh, so just because it's my favorite show and it's super fast paced,
Right.
I shouldn't necessarily start there.
It's like trying to run a marathon without any training.
Right.
you'll just end up frustrated.
Makes sense. So maybe start small, gradually increase the difficulty, celebrate those victories along the way.
Exactly. Think of it like choosing weights at the gym. You want something challenging,
Yes.
but not so heavy that you injure yourself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, for those times when I'm not glued to my phone or laptop, any tips for sneaking in some extra practice?
You're ready for the Describe Your Environment challenge.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It sounds simple, but it's powerful. Think about it. We are constantly surrounded by things to describe.
That's true.
The key is to shift our brains into English mode and capitalize on those opportunities.
Okay, so like if I'm walking down the street instead of just zoning out, I could actually be like,
Yes.
okay, what am I seeing around me?
Exactly. Pay attention to the details, the colors, the shapes, the sounds, even the smells. Engage all your senses and put those observations into words. And here's the fun part. Don't just state the obvious.
Okay,
Use descriptive language. Paint a vivid picture.
so instead of just saying the building is tall, I could say something like, the skyscraper towers over the city, its glass facade reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun.
Now you're talking. The more you practice, the more those words and phrases will flow naturally.
It's like that mental library.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got it, a mental treasure chest of expressions ready to be used at a moment's notice.
I love that. I love that visual.
Yeah.
So pay attention. Descriptive language, don't hold back.
That's it. And the beauty is you can do this anywhere, anytime,
It's true.
without anyone even knowing you're practicing your English.
It's like my little secret mission.
Exactly.
I love that. This is making me realize just how much potential there is for learning
Oh, it's all around us.
in those everyday moments that we just let pass us by.
We just need to open our eyes and our ears to the possibilities.
I love it. Speaking of everyday moments, I'll be honest, there are times when life gets crazy busy,
Oh, tell me about it.
and finding even a few minutes for language practice feels impossible.
I hear you. We've all been there. But the key is remembering that even small, consistent efforts make a huge difference.
So it's more about quality over quantity then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even if you only have 5-10 minutes,
Okay.
use them wisely. Instead of scrolling through social media,
Right.
do a quick shadowing session. Describe your surroundings. Those little pockets of time really add up.
It's about finding those little moments to sprinkle in that English practice.
Yes.
Rather than needing to block out these huge chunks of time.
Exactly. And the more you make English a part of your daily routine, the more natural and effortless it'll become. It'll just become second nature.
You know, it's funny how we can be our own worst critics sometimes.
Oh, totally.
Like we have these big goals, I'm going to be fluent in English.
Yeah.
But then we get so caught up in the perfect conditions.
Oh, for sure. Like, if only I had more time. If only I had a conversation partner.
Exactly. Like waiting for permission to start.
Right.
When really the only permission we need is our own.
Exactly.
If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to like the video. Share it with friends who might find it helpful. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss our next video. Let us know in the comments what topic you'd like to hear.
You got this.
And I think that's something that really stuck with me from this guide.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of our language learning journey
Yes.
and realizing that progress, it's totally possible.
Absolutely.
No matter what your circumstances are.
It's about that mindset shift
Yes.
from I can't to how can I?
And that is so empowering,
It is incredibly impactful.
especially for those of us who have felt stuck
Oh, yeah.
or discouraged
Absolutely.
in the past.
Yeah.
Speaking of feeling empowered,
Okay.
I have to share this one last point from the guide
Okay. I'm ready.
that really resonated with me, which is that fluency, it's not this like
Right.
magical destination.
It's on a finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you check it off your list and you're done.
Exactly.
It's more like this journey, this evolution.
Yes. It's ongoing.
Yes.
It's fluid. Just like language itself.
Yes. I love it.
It's constantly evolving.
And it takes the pressure off
Yeah.
of needing to be perfect.
Right. Embrace the imperfections.
Yes. And I think this guy does a great job of reminding us that every little bit of practice counts.
Every little bit. Those 10 minutes you spend shadowing while you're cooking dinner, that's progress.
Yes. Catching yourself thinking in English.
Huge. Celebrate those victories.
Yes. Because it all adds up.
It absolutely does.
So it's not about finding these like huge chunks of time.
Right.
It's about finding those little opportunities that are already there.
Exactly. And when you approach it with that mindset, It stops feeling like this big, overwhelming task,
Right.
and it becomes something you look forward to.
Yes. We're tricking our brains into enjoying the process.
Exactly. And the more we enjoy it,
Yes.
the more we're going to do it, the more progress we're going to make.
It's like this positive feedback loop
Exactly.
of language learning.
I love it.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on as we wrap up this deep dive into how to practice English fluency without a speaking partner.
Such a good one.
So no more excuses, right?
No more excuses.
Yeah.
You've got this.
We have all the tools we need
We do.
to make incredible progress
Absolutely.
on our own.
That's right.
It's really exciting when you think about it.
It is. It's empowering.
So thank you, as always, to our amazing listeners
Yes, thank you.
for joining us on this adventure.
We'll see you next time.
Until then, happy practicing.